Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidadians urged to push back against the authoritative power of the PNM administration. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 5th October 2022. Details when we return.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Not enough people push back against the government. According to political analyst Dr. Winford James, it's why the current Prime Minister can continue with an authoritative style of governance. Speaking on Monday's morning edition post-budget discussion, Dr. James called on citizens to stand up and express their views and not simply accept what they're being told. Cindy Raghubartika Singh of TV6 News reports.
Political analyst Dr. Winford James says there were a lot of bad things in this year's budget, and yet he says people are unwilling to speak up against measures being imposed that have already begun to make their living conditions worse.
Take the 4% thing. How does the government know that it is right and everybody else is wrong? It's because the Prime Minister says so, right? And I'm saying the country needs to put back against government that is stifling. And I am not calling for violence. I'm just talking people to stand up, air their views, say what they feel and so on.
He says the government operates with an authoritative style where a position is given and no room is left to accommodate opposing views and or suggestions.
The cabinet is never wrong. The cabinet is right in saying, look, 4% is what the teachers and other public servants must take. There's no argument, it's just a statement of dictatorialism that expresses itself every time, every single time. It is that allows the Prime Minister to realize the increase in the airfare and the sea fare between the two islands.
Dr. James says it would be wrong to think this approach to leadership was not deteriorating the PNM's support base. He believes that large slices of its support have been lost owing to decisions of increased taxes, fuel and food prices.
How long can they continue to pressure? Apart from the ethnicity thing, right? How long can they? So I'm asking now, can they bear the fuel increases? Can they bear the increase in food stuff? Food inflation has gone up to 10.5 or 10.25%. Can they bear the high prices? Can they bear the tax?
Cindy Raghubartika Singh, TV6 News.
Still on Trinidad, police officers responding to a home invasion in progress in Mayaro on Monday morning killed 4 bandits during an exchange of gunfire. TV6's reporter TV Raghubartika Singh was in the Mayaro area on Monday to cover the story. She also spoke with the acting police commissioner MacDonald Jacob, who sent a warning to all criminals.
2 weeks after police shot and killed 4 bandits following the deadly Pennywise Laramine heist, police officers killed 4 more bandits along Beaumont Road in Mayaro on Monday. I'm standing outside the Crista Park development in Mayaro, where just after 9 a.m. today, police officers confronted and shot dead 4 bandits who had minutes earlier carried out a home invasion on a family of 3 within this residential community. According to reports, a group of gun-toting men entered the family's home and using duct tape tied up the 3 people there at the time, a businessman, his wife, and their son. Speaking to TV6, Acting Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob says a patrol team in that area received the report of a home invasion and quickly responded.
And on reaching the premises, they were greeted with gunfire. The officers returned fire and it resulted in 4 of the men, after the police have secured and surrounded the premises. 4 of the men are now deceased.
He says 4 pistols which belonged to the bandits were retrieved at the scene. It is believed that at least 3 other bandits accompanied the 4 deceased, but they were able to escape. Commissioner Jacobs says search efforts were immediately mounted for the other men involved in the attack. However, up to news time, they remained at large, and the identities of the 4 who were shot dead had not yet been released. Monday morning's incident makes it the second time in 2 weeks that officers responding to a robbery shot and killed 4 bandits. Commissioner Jacobs says while the TTPS gets no pleasure in using deadly force, these incidents send a clear message.
And we send out the message that the police service is quite equipped. The officers are professionally trained to deal with any eventuality. A firearm in your hand will make you feel that you are in a position that you can handle any situation. It gives you a false sense of power and security. Please put down the gun.
Cindy Raghubatika Singh, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
St. Kitts and Nevis journalists get specialized training. Glenn Budd of SKN Newsline reports.
Members of the recently formed Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis are participating in an intensive online workshop entitled Economic and Business Reporting, facilitated by Kevin Hope, an economic development specialist. The workshop, spread over a period of 1 month, was organized by the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis to assist reporters and journalists to better understand and to be able to analyze data provided by financial and economic institutions such as ministries of finance, central banks, and the World Bank, and to place such information in context of social and political development perspectives. In doing so, participating journalists are expected to provide improved and highly relevant information to the general public, given local, regional, and international influences in our economy and our country. Mr. Hope comes to the role as facilitator with essential background and experience in financial, economic, and business matters.
I think this training will provide your media personnel with quite an immersion in economics and business reporting, in terms of how to interpret annual reports, economic forecasts, or even to extract economic and business ideas from international news reports and publications. I've had the benefit during my master's degree to train, immerse, and work as a business journalist in Barbados at the Advocate newspaper company. And this is what motivated me to share my experience and insights with the SKN Media Association and by extension the OECS media personnel to go beyond surface level coverage of business, finance, and economic news, and to be more ambitious in terms of the analytical and or investigative type of work. This is reinforced by my background in writing for the Business Advocate, engaging with the regional private sector and policy advisory work that I'm currently doing with several member governments. I intend to help media personnel explain and empower the public on global and regional economic issues.
Mr. Hope is an economic development specialist who has had extensive experience with the Caribbean Development Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, as a former executive director of the St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industrial Commerce, and has written several articles in his related field and is currently assisting several Caribbean governments in their economic development strategies. The workshop also was extended to journalists of OECS member countries, with several persons from St. Lucia, Dominica, and Grenada participating in the first of 4 of the workshop's online sessions. Glenn reporting for SK Newsline.
Lennox Linton, opposition leader and leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica, calls it a day.
I stepped up to the responsibility of political leadership in response to the need for change. I served in the responsibility of political leadership on the agenda for change. And I have stepped down from the responsibility of political leadership in the embrace of change. It was never till death do us part. It was always Do the best with all your heart. Change for the better. Change for the good we are committed to do. Change for the future. As we continuously improve, change is the only constant.
A tourist was injured and 2 locals dead in Hanover Collision in Jamaica.
Another fatal collision, this time along the Hopewell Main Road in Hanover, meters away from the Round Hill Hotel. The crash occurred at around 4:15 Saturday morning when a Florida woman drove her Honda Civic motor car into the path of a black Cobra motorcycle while en route to Montego Bay, St. James. The motorcycle was transporting 31-year-old Winston Holness and 26-year-old Pillion Sachet Grant. Grant and Holness were reportedly thrown into nearby bushes following the collision. The Rose Heights St. James residents suffered fatal injuries and were later pronounced dead at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Mangled metal, a wig, police, and parlor personnel were all spotted at the scene on the cold, wet morning. Meantime, the foreigner, who suffered multiple lacerations, has been receiving treatment at hospital. Her condition up to news time remains unclear. Some onlookers speculate that the wet road could be the reason for the tragedy. A reminder to motorists and road users to travel safely on the nation's roads. Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
The Congress of the Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados, CTUSAB, must revitalize the labor movement, said former president of the Human Resource Management Association of Barbados, Brittany Brathwaite.
And I can say that we have the ability not just to reshape and to refocus, but to revitalize the labor movement. As a participant of the drafting and the approval of the Human Resources Development Strategy of Barbados in 2021 under the auspices of the Honourable Colin Jordan, I recall drafting that document with several colleagues, and a solid and significant component of that document is the importance of the labour movement in guiding what we do in Barbados going forward. I'm therefore acutely aware, because of my involvement with the International Labour Organization, both the regional office as well as their office in Turin and the training centre, that this discussion around reshaping and revitalization is not just a Barbadian-based discussion. It's happening internationally and it's happening regionally. The Bureau of Workers' Activities in the International Labour Organization has therefore devoted endless time and resources to determining what it looks like for revitalization, specifically here in the Caribbean. And I do offer greetings from Ms. Vera Gustave, who is the Senior Specialist of Workers' Activities in the Regional Office of the ILO. I spoke with her just this morning as I came into the conference. So what does this look like? What does the revitalization look like? As the gig economy adds its complexities and compounds some uncertainties around the future of work, there's globalization, there's the demographic and environmental and technological changes. And of course, there was COVID. It's exposed and it really has aggravated the existing challenges that global trade union bodies have been facing prior to COVID. Now, where does the global labor movement, or where does our Barbadian labor movement stand? I was unable to get any solid statistics as to whether we've seen a reduction in labor movement membership, but international statistics surely do reflect that there is a steady decline. And listen in, I'm here to deliver bad news up front, but good news at the end, because we need to understand where we stand to understand where we're going. Different factors come into play as a result of this overall decrease. We're thinking of the shift from manufacturing to the service jobs, the outsourcing of union jobs, the informalization, and I think it's a critical factor, the informal economy in Barbados continues to boom, and we'll discuss how the unions treat to that, and the change in employment relationships and automation that exists both here and across the region.
Hubbard is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardsHardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.